Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the pre-season video you have all been patiently waiting for. It is time for me to give my 2022 NRL predictions. Everything from my wooden spooners to who will win the premiership in 2022. But guys, before we get straight into today's video, you guys need to do the classic. You need to smash that like button if you haven't already. Subscribe as well if you haven't already, and of course leave a comment down below and just give me a prediction. Let me know a prediction you have for the 2022 season in that comment section below, and let's get straight into my 2022 NRL predictions. Now, I know that everyone usually likes to give you guys their ladder and finals predictions in separate videos, but I'm going to do something different today. I will be doing my entire season predictions in this one video. So how it's going to work is I'm going to give you 10 predictions I have for the 2022 season. At the end of it, we'll see if I can get a pass mark. But at the end, I will give you guys my full ladder for the regular season this year. So don't be worried, we're still going to cover pretty much every single NRL team, my thoughts on them. But let's get straight into the 10 predictions I have for this 2022 season. And unfortunately, we're not going to start positive. I thought let's reverse it. Let's start a bit negative. Who do I think is going to get the wooden spoon? Well, I've changed my mind on this a few times actually, but I've landed back on one and I'm very sorry. I think that the West Tigers will finally get their wooden spoon in 2022. I am very sorry, Tigers fans. I just do not see your team improving. In fact, I think it may have only gotten worse this year. The 5 captains also does not put a lot of confidence in me. The worst thing I think about the Tigers, and of course it was a trial match, is the fact that in a reserve side, in that second half of that trial game against Manly, their reserves just look down and out. They have signed a Manly Harold Matts captain, which I guess is a good thing. Obviously, they got Papali'i and Api Koroisau coming in 2023. For me, it's just going to get a lot worse before it can get any better. Obviously, the future of Luke Brooks, that's still up for debate. There's so many question marks around this team. A lot of teams, especially towards the bottom of last year's ladder, have improved immensely. So, Tigers, you just haven't, and I think that it's only going to get worse for them. I think they pick up their first wooden spoon in pretty much their franchise history since Balmain and the Magpies merged. Unfortunately though, I don't think Madge Maguire will see the improvement that we will definitely see in 2023 and further onwards from the Tigers, because Madge Maguire, he won't be the first coach, but I do think that he will lose his job in 2022. I don't like to see anyone lose their job, unfortunately though. But Madge Maguire, there's a reason there was so much pressure on him during the off-season. There's obviously not a bunch of confidence from the board in him. And I think that if the Tigers do pick up the wooden spoon, he is going to be let go by the West Tigers. Not only because I think that he just hasn't done a correct job. He has come in, he has got more of the players. He's got more of a roster that he's built now than Ivan Cleary. He just hasn't been able to recruit either. It's just, he's only gotten worse, unfortunately, for Madge. Things have only gotten worse since the departure of Ivan Cleary. I know Tigers fans won't want to hear it, but at least the Tigers under Ivan were on the trend upwards. Madge has come in, he's only taken them backwards. He barely hung on to his job in the off-season, and I think, unfortunately, for Madge Maguire, this will be the end of the road. It'll be the end of his tenure at the West Tigers before they go on to improve in 2023. Who should be the man to replace Madge Maguire? If it was up to me, his suspension is over this year, I would pick Shane Flanagan. And now, turning our attention to the two most hyped up teams going into this season, I think that the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs and the Brisbane Broncos will both not feature in this year's final series. I don't think these teams will make the top 8. These teams are just coming from so far down. I don't think they're going to be able to overtake as many teams as what will require to make the top 8. I think that these two teams definitely are in the top 8 when it comes to their future as a club. More so the Bulldogs than the Broncos. However, I think it's just going to take a year or two before these teams can push into finals football. The Bulldogs definitely have the better squad. However, they've still only got one spine player as for now. The halfback is still up for debate. Matt Duffy, he may or may not be the answer for fullback. We'll have to see how he goes this season. They have Reid Marnie coming in 2023. So when it comes to the Bulldogs, I'm not too concerned about their future. I just don't think they have the side to beat some of the top 8 teams and get into that top 8. As for the Broncos, though, outside of Adam Reynolds and Kurt Capewell, this is still the same team that only won a handful of games last year and the year before. So I think they're pretty much in the same ordeal. I don't think they're going to be able to push on to the top 8. They had the good preseason, though. They got destroyed. They destroyed a team themselves, and they got the late draw against the Titans. I just feel the same thing about both these teams. These two teams are just coming from so far down. They're not going to be able to be that good enough to overtake some of the teams that it requires to make it inside the top 8. The Dogs, though, at least they've got a future set for 2023. I think 2023 will be the year they push on to the top 8. There's still a question mark around the Broncos for me, especially with these rumours Payne Haas could be going to the Sydney Roosters. But the Titans, they were the most hyped up team last year. They were able to sneak into the 8 as the worst ever finals team. This year, though, I don't think the Broncos and Bulldogs will be able to do the same. I think it's another year of waiting for Broncos and Bulldogs fans this year. They're just hoping to see a lot of improvement, especially the Bulldogs fans who want to get away from the wooden spoon. And speaking about the Brisbane Broncos and the Gold Coast Titans, I think that this year's final series will include no Queensland team for the second time in 3 years. I've already given my thoughts about the Broncos. The same could be said about the Cowboys. In a competition where so many teams have convincingly improved, the Cowboys are one of those teams that haven't, and honestly, I put them in the same category as the West Tigers. Until the preseason, they were actually my wooden spooners. However, they just filled me with a bit more confidence than the West Tigers did. I guess the big question out of this is the Gold Coast Titans, and to be fair, not to the same extent as the Cowboys, but so many teams have improved for this 2022 season, and I think the Titans just haven't. The thing about the Titans, though, is that they have such a young team, and of course, a lot of their players will improve. I just think that was such an unproven and inexperienced spine that some of these teams that didn't make the 8 last year are going to jump them. So, I don't think they're going to be competing for the spoon. The Titans will be in that battle for the top 8. The Cowboys, unfortunately, I think they're going to be at the bottom of the ladder. Same with the Broncos. So, for the second time in 3 years, I don't think any Queensland teams will be playing finals football. And now I'm continuing to speak about this trend about teams that will not rise in 2022 compared to others. The Newcastle Knights, I think that they're in for a rough year, especially with the departure of their halfback Mitchell Pearce, who's been so important to them ever since he arrived at the Newcastle Knights. However, I ain't talking about their result this time. I am talking about their superstar fullback Kalyn Ponga, who has dealt with some injuries previously, but I reckon that he is going to be leaving the Newcastle Knights. He will not activate his player option. And where do I see him going? I see him signing the largest deal in NRL history. He'll go up and he will be the face of the Dolphins as the superstar fullback behind the master coach Wayne Bennett. I'm so sorry, Knights fans. If it was up to me, I would let Kalyn Ponga stay. He's been saying all the right things in the media, but to me, we've heard this song and dance before, even a few years ago when David Fifita was saying his heart was with the Brisbane Broncos before he went to the Titans. It would be a different thing if Kalyn was just taking the money and going to the Dolphins. However, the Knights, they have just not done right by Kalyn. They owe so much to him because without Kalyn Ponga, they definitely wouldn't have made the recruitment signings they did, like Tyson Frizzell, like a prime David Klemmer, and make finals football the past 2 years in a row. But Kalyn Ponga, he is probably going to be sick of having to carry this team. Unless he can do a Tommy Turbo in 2022, I just don't think that he can replicate what we saw there. I think the Knights are going to struggle this year. That would be the main thing. If Kalyn Ponga can do what I said he just couldn't, if he can carry the Knights to some wins to start the 2022 season, then I think then he's definitely a chance of staying. What doesn't help as well, I'm so sorry the Knights fans, is Jayden Brailey being out for the first half of the season. Their start to the season is more arguably important than their back half with Kalyn Ponga's whole contract saga up in the air. I just see more benefit of him leaving, especially with the amount of money the Redcliffe Dolphins will offer, and Kalyn already being a Queenslander. I think the Knights fans are in a rough spot for 2022 because not only are they relying on their results, but they need Kalyn Ponga to stay. If Kalyn leaves, unfortunately, after Watson and Pearce have left, as I already mentioned, things could only go from bad to worse. So look, if it was up to me, of course I'd rather Kalyn Ponga stay. We need rugby league to thrive in Newcastle. But there's a part of me that thinks we're going to be hearing about Kalyn Ponga becoming the richest NRL player in just a few months. Now, this prediction won't ruffle as many feathers as the other ones have so far, but I do think that the South Sydney Rabbitohs, coming off a grand final loss, will drop out of the top 4. I still think they will be playing finals footy. They still have too good of a team to miss out on playing finals footy at the end of the year. But with the departure of Adam Reynolds, but more importantly, the departure of Wayne Bennett, I think will definitely hurt their chances of being able to go to another grand final and this time win it. I understand that Latrell Mitchell did miss the last chunk of that season, but he's a completely different player to Adam Reynolds. Now look, we can't guarantee that Lachlan Ilias cannot replace Adam Reynolds, and Jason Demetriou can't be as good as Wayne Bennett. But 99% of people think that unfortunately it's going to take time for both these men to adapt to their new roles. Maybe Ilias will have a breakout season. Maybe he can be on the Sam Walker level. I don't think so. And I think that the Rabbitohs will initially struggle to open the season. But I think as the season moves on, similar to what they did in 2020 when they had a really slow start, but came and picked it up and nearly beat the Panthers in the prelim final. Rabbitohs fans, don't be too concerned. It's just going to take a year or two before you can get back to the top 4. But Latrell Mitchell, he's in for a massive year. I don't think he's going to get the Dally M though. That is going to go to not even Tom Trbojevic. I'm spoiling it a bit here, but Tom Trbojevic will not replicate his season from last year, but he will go very, very close. The thing that will hold Tommy back is I'm hoping as a Manly fan, some of the other players will take points off of him. The only issue is that a lot of Manly's best players are going to be missing the start of the season, more noticeably their back rows, Josh Schuster and Ola Kawatu, and I think those two can become the X-Factor players Manly need outside of Tommy Turbo. Saab and Garrick, they're great in the attacking zone, but they need to get better at coming out of their own 20. The only thing that's going to stop Tommy is the Melbourne Storm. Hopefully Tommy can dominate the regular season and Origin, but this time he can dominate finals football. Manly, they're in a good spot at the moment. They may have the issue Parramatta have had this off-season when a lot of their players come off of 2023 and 2024, including the skipper, Daly Cherry Evans. But Manly, I think they'll still be there, be thereabouts. Tommy will come close. I don't think he'll score as many tries. I still think he'll get the Dally M fullback of the year spot, but he ain't picking up the Dally M, unfortunately, Tom Trbojevic, because in 2022, the Dally M medalist will be Cameron Munster. Cameron Munster has the ability to be one of the best players in the game, as we saw in his 2020 State of Origin series. And in that series, he was coming off a 1-week bender after they won the grand final. So imagine what he's going to be 6 months going on into a year without a drink. I think this is the year Cameron Munster dominates an NRL season. He has yet to do so. He has dominated the Origin arena. He's dominated at international level, but he has yet to dominate an NRL season. There is no big game player in the competition, maybe arguably outside of James Tedesco, then Cameron Munster, and I think Munster will put this Melbourne team on his back. Brandon Smith, the Bromwich brothers, and Felice Kaufusi are only already leaving to elsewhere in 2023, and I think that Cameron Munster can put this team on his back. So many people are writing Melbourne off in 2022. I feel like that's a bit silly. We all know what they can do when they have the GOAT coach at the helm, and Cameron Munster, he is ready to dominate an NRL season. If he's ever going to do one, I feel like it has to be this year, and I see him walking away with the Dally M medal. Tom Trbojevic, I think he'll come second. He'll pick up the fullback of the year. But Latrell Mitchell and Kalyn Ponga, those are my 4 that will contest for the Dally M this season. And we all know the Melbourne Storm will be gunning to win the minor premiership and the premiership. However, I think they will fall short of the minor premiership, because I feel like that will go to the Sydney Roosters. We saw how good they were last year. They get their big guns back in 2022. This team is still full of so many young guns who are only going to improve, as well as the superstars. Luke Keary, he returns. Victor Radley, he's only going to improve. James Tedesco, he's out to prove to everyone that he is still the best fullback in the NRL competition. This team has it all, but I don't think they're going to win the premiership. I feel like they're going to make the grand final though, so it's be the Sydney Roosters. Expect them to be there or be thereabouts. The only thing that makes me think they're not going to win the premiership is because I feel like they're building towards 2023. They definitely aren't even in a rebuilding phase, that Robertson said in the media, but it sort of gives an indication as to where their mentality is at. When they get the cheese in 2023, I feel like they can make the push this year. I still have them winning the minor premiership. They'll still make the grand final, but they will lose to my eventual premiers, because in 2022, the Penrith Panthers will go back-to-back. They will win back-to-back premierships. The Roosters only did it a few years ago, and Nathan Cleary is going to lead his side back to the promised land. Nathan Cleary, I don't think he's going to be in Dally M contention. He will win halfback of the year once again though. But this Panthers team, they're going to lose a few players, but they'll do what they did last year. They will just keep on improving. Their team is still so young, and they are the perfect team for these new rules. They have such a good, dynamic, fast forward pack. They have a good, strong back line, and they arguably have the best spine in the combination. They all work so well together, and Isaiah Yeo, he is pretty much another spine player you could add into this mix. They are just the perfect football team for this current era of rugby league. They could have the New South Wales 6, 7 and 9 as well as the 13. Liam Martin's a back rower on the rise. They got the best front rower in the competition at the moment, James Fisher-Harris. They got the best winger at the moment, Brian To'o. So this is a team that will be a force to be reckoned with. I feel like they have the minerals to be able to go back-to-back, and I think they will do just that. So the Penrith Panthers will beat the Sydney Roosters in the 2022 Grand Final. I feel like Manly, Parramatta and Melbourne will be the other three contending for the premiership. It's between those five. I would put the top three, Melbourne, Penrith and the Roosters in the top tier. Manly and Eels, they're probably just a tier below for those two sides. But the Panthers, they'll beat the Roosters in the Grand Final. But now, let's just get into straight what everyone wants me to talk about. Here is my ladder you have all been waiting for. In 16th, I have the West Tigers. 15th is the Cowboys. 14th is Newcastle. 13th, the Broncos to round out the bottom four. Missing out in the top 8, I have the Bulldogs, the Titans in 12th and 11th. Then in mid-table, it goes Warriors and Dragons. They'll finish just outside the top 8, and my top 8 is as follows. The Sharks in 8th, the Rabbitohs in 7th, the Canberra Raiders. They have such a good team on paper. Hopefully it gels unlike it didn't last year. They'll finish in 6th. And then the top 5, as I mentioned. Parramatta, I feel like they'll time their regular season better, but that will cost them. They'll finish just outside the top 4. Manly, their slow start, that'll hurt them, but they'll still be able to get 4th spot. And then I feel like it's going to be a very close battle in between those top 3 for the minor premiership. But after all is said and done, that is my ladder, folks. Let me know, do you agree with me or not in that comment section below? But like I said, do the classic. Like the video if you haven't already. Subscribe if you haven't already. And of course, drop a prediction down below. And if this video can hit, let's say, 30 likes, I might do a video reacting to the most popular predictions in the comment section. But guys, thanks for watching. And just straight up, who do you think wins the premiership in 2022?